I'm friends with someone who works at our local grocery store in town. She offered to pick me up all of their food scraps because it's just going to waste. And I took her up on that offer, and it was more than I ever could have imagined. For the month of August and a little bit of September, I decided I was going to weigh all of the boxes and keep track of the food I was getting. So in that month, 5-week period, I got over 1,000 pounds of produce. It's just crazy how much food waste there is in this one small grocery store in one small town, let alone this whole country. But I'm glad that in this case, this food waste can really help me out in what I'm trying to do here. First off, it's feed for my chickens and geese. They really love it. It's high quality food for them, and it really helps cut down on my feed bill. I really wanted to get chickens and geese, and I'm really glad we did. And this food that I'm getting from this local grocery store is really helping me to keep the food bill down, and it's gonna help me out through the winter, especially because they're free range. They free range all day right now, so that supplements the food bill as well. I'm really glad that in our long, cold winters up here, I'm gonna be able to pile up all this food in our cattle panel greenhouse in our chicken run here, along with a bunch of leaves from the woods behind me, and let our chickens go through, forage for some of their food still. But besides that, and maybe the most important use of this food waste, is my compost system. So if you're new here, I moved onto this land, which used to be our old family farm, and I'm trying to turn it back into a self-sustaining homestead. This year I had to buy a lot of compost from the store, and that's something going forward that I really wanted to cut down on. So with the compost system I have in place now, using these food scraps and the chickens and geese, I should be able to really close off my system and produce enough compost to take care of my food forest and my orchard. So for the compost, what I do is I pile up all the fresh food right when I get it in this one box right here, just some fence I put up. I pile it up right here. They dig through it for a couple days, pick out what they want, but when it starts breaking down, I move it into the next section of my system. I built this bin here using logs from our woods. I felled some trees that were going to be taken down this winter when we log, and I put them into the ground here, ran some sticks in between them to make some walls, and I started piling all the compost in here once the birds go through it, a bunch of leaves from our woods, all the grass clippings from when I mowed, and everything from cleaning out the chicken coop and the geese house. I just flipped it this morning. It's looking amazing. I'm really excited to get this spread on my blueberry patch and my orchard going forward. But I'm gonna have to make a couple more of these bins. I have all the logs ready. I just gotta dig the holes and weave the branches. But the idea is to make a few more of these bins and just kind of keep moving them into each bin once the one before it gets filled up, turning the compost in the process, and eventually it'll reach the end, and hopefully by that point it's broken down enough to spread on my fruit trees and bushes. It's great for the feed and for the compost, but another use of all of this food scraps that I've been taking advantage of is filling raised beds. We just expanded our A-frame greenhouse in our garden. We doubled its size, and I put another huge raised bed in that area. I filled about a third of that bed with food scraps. I got a bunch of watermelons from her that day, and I lined the entire bottom of that bed with the watermelons and everything else. So it really helps save a lot of soil, which is good because our soil pile is starting to get low with all of these raised beds that I put in place this year. But not only is it gonna help us save soil filling up these raised beds, it's also gonna break down and add nutrients into the soil, which is gonna allow us to hopefully get produce into our colder months coming up here. And I also use the cardboard boxes that all this food comes in my garden. I break them all down, spread them across my garden, and put wood chips on top. But speaking of compost, I'm actually gonna get into my garden right now and rip out some of the cucumber beds that are done for the year and get them all cleaned up and then spread a layer of compost over top. All right, I got a couple beds cleared out. I took some cucumber vines off of here and threw them in the compost pile along with some zucchinis. I just put a layer of compost on top of here, just gonna let this break down for the year. I'm gonna get in here and put some leaves on it at a different time, but for now, this is good. I actually got a text while I was doing all this from the lady who gives me all of this food waste, and she said she has another delivery for me. So I'm gonna head over there right now and pick it up, and I'll be back hopefully with a lot more food for my chickens. But yeah, I just want to make this video to kind of talk about food waste in this country and how you can kind of potentially use it to your benefit if you're a homesteader. I was fortunate to even make the connections I did to get this food waste. As fate would have it, the local chicken breeder I got connected with and got my chickens from, actually, she works at this grocery store, and she had a couple boxes laying around one day, and we got to talking. She said she feeds her chickens with it, but they can only eat so much. She kind of knew what I was doing. She saw my channel at that point, and she asked me if I wanted like the rest of the boxes if she brought it home. And she started bringing them home, and I make a trip over a couple times a week now, pick up all this food and give them to my chickens, and then just keep this system going. I just want to put the idea out there that maybe that's something that you could look into. Maybe reach out to your local grocery store, see if they have a lot of waste. Because if I wasn't taking this food home, according to her, it would just be in the dumpster behind the buildings. And this is a very practical, easy, cheap way to subsidize their diet.